Hello, I am Shaun Holland, and I am one of two whistleblowers that were systematically targeted and removed by the Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry. I am going to take a few minutes of your time. I'm going to do some quick recap, and I'm going to bring you up to speed on some other things that have been happening since the use of force. Now, when the department wrongfully terminated us, they had to provide information to ADOA, Arizona Department of Administration, to justify the termination. And they took it a step further. They went very public with it, and they went on the news. The news even went even further, went on Twitter and X. And it was very devastating to our lives, actually. In fact, the prosecution went as far as getting the court system to limit Lieutenant Haas's ability to travel outside of state and do other activities. If you Google our names, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So, in the claims that were made by the prosecution, ADCRR, were that we used excessive criminal force on the inmate. The recommendation of charges that they used against Lieutenant Haas was based on incorrect law. They were using public police use of force law and not law that governs corrections use of force. So they couldn't even bring the charges forward anyway. They also claimed that Lieutenant Haas and I were too high ranked to go down there and investigate the issue. First off, this was a nurse who is a contractor who is part of the public. And as Lieutenant Haas was the shift commander and I, the ADW, was not only the unit medical liaison, but I was also assigned to the complex medical improvement team by Warden Thompson. We both were the absolute correct ones to go down there and investigate this. They went as far as claiming that Lieutenant Haas had a history of excessive use of forces. They even provided a list of use of forces as so-called evidence to back their claims. The use of forces that were provided were not only reviewed and approved as not excessive, they were also deemed to be not criminal, and they were deemed justified. Out of the 6 use of forces they provided as evidence claiming Lieutenant Haas used excessive force, he was only involved in the use of force of a couple of them. The rest of them, he was there as a supervisor or showed up after. And these are the kind of things that ADCRR did to manipulate the situation, to not only get their way, but to publicly destroy myself and Lieutenant Haas. So they misrepresented and or lied on the paperwork to ADOA. They misrepresented and or lied when they were giving the information and recommended charges to the Maricopa County's prosecution's office, and they did the same thing to the news station. Now, do you all remember the day we were fired? Like I said, Fox News was all over it. They did news specials. They even posted on Twitter, which is now X, and it was quite interesting. It was a very, very difficult day for me, and it was a very difficult day for Lieutenant Mark Haas. Here's the smear.
Welcome back. We have an exclusive story for you now. Fox 10 is breaking. We have just learned that 2 high-ranking state prison employees have been fired following an excessive force investigation, something that happened behind prison walls. And again, we're talking about high-ranking employees. One of them is a deputy warden. So this is video, again, exclusive to Fox 10. And you can see basically there's an associate deputy warden, Shaun Holland, and Lieutenant Mark Haas go in now. Now, generally, these are not people who would be handling inmates. DOC now is looking at this, and they basically have fired both of these men. Also, they have submitted this video and all of their evidence after their investigation to the Maricopa County attorney. And so now they are looking at assault charges, aggravated assault charges, class 6, against one of the men.
Holland and Haas blew the whistle on the Arizona Department of Corrections multiple times. Last December, Holland wrote to Governor Doug Ducey, calling out officials for failing to get broken cell locks fixed. When the COVID pandemic began, Haas also wrote to Ducey saying Director David Shin barred staff from wearing PPE, even refusing to supply it. Holland filed a lawsuit against the state just days after the use of force in July, accusing the administration of leveraging the incident to open a retaliatory investigation. Haas sued the state, alleging the deputy warden told him he would be suspended, unpaid 80 hours, and that Holland would be charged with a crime. Both men will be placed on administrative leave, assigned to their homes.
I know. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that the department is firm, fair, and consistent across the board. There is no way they just went out and targeted these two people. But is that true?
You can see this officer walking with a handcuffed prisoner to his cell.
He looks to be older.
He is an older inmate. He's definitely in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
This is a younger man, a bigger man.
He's
Now,
pretty,
yeah, the
he's a
inmate,
pretty big dude.
The inmate is resisting.
Yep. Okay.
But is he resisting for a slam?
Okay, so that, right, was that guy charged with anything?
No.
Was he even disciplined?
Letter of reprimand, I believe. Now this is the supervisor.
Well, that's a supervisor.
That's a sergeant, yes.
Closely watch what happens next.
There's no major alarm here about any sort of danger.
And they're not responding.
Yeah. These guys don't even seem worked up.
They throw him in there and then, oh, did you see that?
Yeah, what was that, a kick to the
The
head?
sergeant kicked him in the head.
ABC 15 obtained this leaked footage. It's a video we learned was not turned over by the state. It's from March 2020, and it shows officers using force on an inmate with serious mental illness. The inmate is in what's called a suicide smock. Records and videos show officers shot pepper balls and tasered him in the cell multiple times. Officers also used a, quote, lead chain. It's a long chain attached to the inmate. Officers using force on inmates. It's inmates attacking officers. We got this leaked video of a handful of inmates taking turns to pummel an officer. It lasted almost 2 minutes. Punches, stomps, kicks like this to the officer's head. It's amazing he wasn't seriously injured. We did a story about it last year and found the prison never referred charges against the inmates.
Okay, so they weren't being firm, fair, or consistent, but surely they weren't specifically just going after us, right?
Like, I'm going to be straight up with you right now. You are fucking lucky that wasn't a black inmate. You have to understand that you, Holland, and Carlos put a fucking huge target on your back.
Let me ask you, are you willing to prosecute?
I'm shocked they did criminal charges. We don't criminally charge fucking anybody.
Like, are you willing to go to court? Are you willing to testify against him? Are you willing to do all that stuff?
We don't press criminal charges on anything.
Right.
From my opinion, our CIU, in my opinion, is fucking useless because we don't charge anybody.
I'll explain it a little further, and then you can, hopefully help us out.
Holy fuck, right, wrong, or indifferent, man, if that was a black inmate, you're probably fucked.
Went after him to destroy him.
How high up do you think this decision to retaliate went?
Definitely to the director's level, possibly above it. And they even rushed to pay this inmate $25,000.
Did he file a lawsuit?
He did, but he dropped it.
Oh, because they settled so quickly.
Yes, yeah, well, I mean, the state rushed to give him a check.
They don't settle anything.
No, and not for $25,000. They were trying to create a victim, slam dunk this case, show that we are these evil people that the department was thankful to get rid of.
Well, I guess they were targeting us. And that's not even all the evidence we have. This is just like a quick recap and catch up. So I know a lot of people don't have time to go to the court and watch this. I know a lot of people don't have the ability to or the time or the desire really to go get the transcripts and review it and everything like that. But there's some interesting things that have developed since our firing to now. Like the prosecution was taking this position of it was criminal excessive force, to now the prosecution and the experts are saying, okay, well, the force was good. It was textbook. It looked good. There was no, they're agreeing there's no harm to the inmate, which was, there was no injuries to the inmate. And that everything was good. Now they're just saying that, well, the intent, what was their intent for being there? I mean, really? We went to investigate an issue. The inmate became aggressive. We went under ICS from the officer in the control room, and we used justified, appropriate force to de-escalate the situation when all other de-escalation attempts failed. Another interesting point is ADCRR claimed that I lied in my supplement. But the officer in the control room, they didn't claim lied in the supplement. Completely substantiated everything that I wrote and that Lieutenant Haas wrote. But I guess they're just, once again, just picking and choosing who they're going to go after and who they're not. But hey, what can you do? I don't know. So they lost the felony charge, and then they decided, well, I mean, we're not going to just give up, even though we horrifically got beat on this whole felony charge that shouldn't have even come up anyway. So they started pushing this misdemeanor thing. Well, it's interesting because That doesn't look like targeting at all, does it? Oh, well, yeah, actually it kind of does. There's even Arizona Supreme Court rulings that justify the use of force that was used, that the prosecution and their experts have turned and said is an appropriate use of force and was great and all this stuff. No, the judge is in a bad spot. The judge is a victim of ADCRR's misrepresentation, lies, and manipulation. Even the parts of the prosecution offices, and I'm sure other parts of state government are. This entire thing was orchestrated and perpetrated just to remove 2 whistleblowers. That was all. And they did it as publicly and as harshly as they could. Thank you for your time.